I know usually the first film in a franchise is regarded as the best, or at least among the best, but not this one. Welcome to WWH. Thank you for joining us once again. We have another great show for you today, so stick around until the very end because you don't want to miss this. Also, we do have a surprise at the very end of today's show, and I'm very excited about it. With that out of the way, let's get going. We have another rematch today. We first looked at this film about 9 months ago, and it's a very important film, so we're running it back. That film is the original Friday the 13th, released in 1980. Like I said, this film is very important, but that doesn't mean that it's good. It was directed by Sean S. Cunningham and was written by Victor Miller. It stars Betsy Palmer, Adrienne King, and also features Kevin Bacon in one of his earliest roles. I've always been a fan of Kevin Bacon, with Tremors probably being my favorite film of his. I think it's really cool that he hasn't shied away from the horror genre. A lot of big-name celebrities get their start in horror and then never come back, but not him. He's been in several horror movies over the years, and most of them are pretty good. So, Friday the 13th tells the story of a group of camp counselors preparing to open a summer camp where a tragedy took place many years ago. In the process, they are stalked by a POV killer and picked off one by one. Sounds pretty run-of-the-mill, doesn't it? Well, it is. With that being said, let's head down to the ring for some WWH action. In 1957, a young boy drowned at Camp Crystal Lake, and the following year, 2 counselors are murdered by an unseen killer. Several years later, the camp is set to reopen with counselors now preparing. A girl named Annie is the cook for the camp, and she is driven halfway to the camp by a truck driver named Enos. But before she's picked up, she meets Crazy Ralph, who tells her the camp is cursed in a way that only he can.
It's got a death curse!
The townspeople aren't too thrilled about the camp opening again and have even began calling the area Camp Blood. While driving, Enos warns Annie of the camp's troubled past, but she just brushes him off. When she's dropped off, she gets a ride from another person that we don't see. The driver passes the turn for the camp and, despite Annie's pleas, doesn't stop. Annie jumps out of the moving Jeep and runs into the woods. The killer follows her, eventually catching up and cutting her throat. Back at the camp, the counselors, including Ned, Jack, Bill, Marcy, Brenda, Alice, and the owner of the camp, Steve, are cleaning and fixing up the camp. Steve wants to be with Alice, but she's kind of just stringing him along. Steve leaves the camp as a thunderstorm approaches. Later on, Ned sees someone walk into a cabin and follows them. Jack and Marcy go into their cabin later on and are unaware of Ned's dead body in the bunk above them. A lot of the kills in this film are done off screen, and it's pretty annoying, honestly. Marcy leaves to use the bathroom, and while she's gone, Jack, played by Kevin Bacon, is killed in one of my favorite kills in the entire franchise. His throat is pierced with an arrow from underneath the bed. The effects in this scene are so good. Tom Savini shows off his work in a fantastic way. And even though it didn't really go according to plan, it turned out even better in my opinion. The killer then follows Marcy into the bathroom and kills her with an axe to the face.
In the face! In the face! No!
The others have been playing their own version of Monopoly, but the storm puts an end to that, so Brenda turns in for the night. She hears a little boy calling for help, so she ventures outside and ends up at the archery range. Of course, this is a slasher movie, and that was a horrible idea, and that decision ends up costing her her life. The lights turn on, and Brenda screams, giving us yet another kill off screen. It gets tiring. Alice and Bill get worried about their friends and go look for them. They find all kinds of problems. The axe in Brenda's bed, phone lines have been cut, and Ned's truck won't start. It's like a slasher trifecta. Steve returns after some car trouble and recognizes the unseen killer before he is stabbed off screen yet again.
Oh, hi. What are you doing out in this mess?
The power to the camp goes out and Bill goes to check the generator. Alice looks for him and finds his body pinned to the door with arrows, meaning what? That's right. He was killed off screen. Somebody let me know down below how many times I say off screen during this video. Alice is our final girl. She runs back to the main cabin where she is terrorized even more when Brenda's body is thrown through the window. A vehicle pulls up and Alice, thinking it's Steve, runs outside. But instead she is greeted by Mrs. Voorhees, a woman who claims to be an old friend of Steve's family.
How are you? Well, I'm Mrs. Voorhees, an old friend of the Christies.
She tells Alice that her son, Jason, was the boy who drowned back in 1957. She blames her son's death on neglect by the counselors. She reveals that she is the killer. If you came to this movie expecting to see Jason Voorhees killing camp counselors, well, you won't get that. You get his mother instead. Mrs. Voorhees tries to kill Alice but gets knocked out. They end up on the shore of the lake where Mrs. Voorhees tries to kill Alice with her son's favorite toy. Alice gets the upper hand and uses it to chop her freaking head off. She gets into a canoe and floats out into the middle of the lake where she passes out from exhaustion. She wakes the next morning with the police on the shore and all seems well. Suddenly, just like Randy Orton, the decomposing body of Jason appears from out of nowhere and drags her into the water. Alice wakes up again in the hospital, this time surrounded by doctors and a police officer. She asks about Jason, but they tell her that they didn't see him anywhere.
Ma'am, we didn't find any boy.
And the film ends with a shot of ripples in the water of the lake. And that is Friday the 13th. I've got to be honest, this is not the easiest watch, but I can appreciate this film to an extent. There are definitely some good moments, some memorable scenes. I just wanted more. Of course, when they made this film, they had no idea what it would become, or even an inkling of an idea that Jason would become the face of this franchise. And it has been confirmed that this film was only made to capitalize on the success of Halloween. The filmmakers were even told to rip off Halloween as much as possible. Right now, we have to take a quick break and we'll be right back with more WWH action. If you're looking to save 20% off of your order from Recon1.com, look no further. I have the perfect deal for you. Use code AndrewDreamer right now at checkout to receive 20% off your entire order. That is a really good discount, and you can get some really good products. Supplements, t-shirts, bags, protein bars, anything you could possibly want, they will have. So go check out their website and use code AndrewDreamer at checkout to save 20%. Welcome back. Let's head right back down to the ring to get into the positives of this film. What do I like about the original Friday the 13th? Well, honestly, there's not much. The best part of it is Tom Savini's special effects. He always is amazing when he works on a film. That Kevin Bacon kill was spectacular. And speaking of Kevin Bacon, I actually enjoy him here. I think you can see the early makings of his great acting ability. Betsy Palmer even does a great job in her role. And Crazy Ralph is so crazy that he's fun.
You'll never come back again.
But I can't really think of anything else that I like about this movie. If you think I left something out, let me know down in the comments below. Moving on to the negatives now. Oh boy. This movie is boring. It's so slow and nothing really happens. A lot of the kills are done off screen and that doesn't do this film any favors. And I don't think the directing is very good. And even the writing is lacking in a lot of ways. The dialogue is just bad. We obviously know what this franchise can be when it's at its best, but this ain't it, Chief. And honestly, Alice is not a very good final girl. She just happens to be the one who survives. There's really no purpose for her to be in that role at all. This movie is just, it's so aggravating. And it's not one that I watch when I'm in the mood to watch a Friday the 13th movie. It's actually pretty low in my ranking, which I will do at some point. It's just so boring and it drags on and on. But I'll stop now before I give myself an aneurysm. I don't like this movie. I can appreciate the legacy that it created. This franchise dominated a lot of the 1980s, and for good reason. Maybe we'll look at more of the franchise later on. And honestly, I'm really excited for the upcoming show on Peacock now that the lawsuit is over. It's time to wrap up the show now, but I hope you enjoyed it. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't done that already. Hit that thumbs up button and leave a comment with your thoughts or any recommendations. Thank you for joining us today. October is approaching quickly and we've got a lot of things in store. I told you there was a surprise at the end of this video. That being said, I am starting a Patreon for the channel. It's actually already up now as you're watching this video. And when we hit 500 subscribers, we are going to be giving away a Wrestling with Horror t-shirt. More details will be coming soon for that, but we're out of time now. So, until next time, my name is Andrew Dreamer, and this is Wrestling with Horror.